Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight's lesson is on dividing a whole number by a fraction. So our previous lesson was dividing a fraction by a whole number. So what we've done is we've switched these now. So our goal is that we're going to be dividing whole numbers by fractions, but more importantly, we're going to be creating story problems to match. So if you remember, I've said again and again, this whole unit is not on finding answers, but the unit is on being able to understand and create models and understand and create story problems. So our vocab for this lesson is just a repeat of our other vocab. We need to be really comfortable with our division terminology. So our first word is a dividend, and this is what you are dividing. What you are dividing. So in the problem, 12 divided by 3 equals 4. The dividend would be the 12. This is what I have and what I'm going to divide. Okay, the divisor in the same problem would be the 3. A lot of times we think of the divisor as how many groups we're going to be making or how many people we're going to be passing something out to. And then in the same problem, the 4 would be our quotient, because a quotient is an answer to a division problem. Okay, we don't have any new notes for this lesson, so we're going to jump right into our steps. Okay, our first step is we need to write the expression. Now remember, an expression is a problem or an equation without an equal sign. So it just is a fancy word for a problem. Once you write your expression, you're going to draw a model of what you're dividing, okay, which is your dividend. Okay, you want to be familiar with both area models and with number lines. I've said again and again that our test is going to require you to understand both of them. Okay, once we've drawn our dividend, or drawn what we have, what we're going to divide, then we're going to divide the model by the divisor. Okay, this one's going to be a little bit different. We're going to find the solution now by counting. So this is not how we did it in the last lesson. And our final one is we're going to ask ourselves, does our answer make sense? This is really important in this lesson because where people usually make their mistakes is they switch the dividend and the divisor. Okay, so we're going to really pay close attention and say, does that make sense? Okay, so what does this actually look like? Let me zoom out so you can see my steps and my problem. Okay, my first step says I'm going to write my expression. So let's read my problem. John has 12 pounds of candy that he wants to pack into boxes. The boxes each hold 1/4 pound of candy. How many boxes will he need? Okay, so if I look, my numbers are 12 pounds of candy and then boxes that hold 1/4 pound of candy. So here's my numbers, 12 and 1/4. Okay, so what do I have that I'm dividing? That's how I need to create my expression. Do I have the 12 pounds of candy that I'm going to divide into these boxes that hold 1/4 pound, or do I have these 1/4 pound or these boxes that I'm going to divide into my 12 pounds of candy? So hopefully you figured out that I have 12 pounds of candy that I'm going to divide into the boxes that each hold 1/4 pound of candy. Okay, so here's my whole number that I'm going to be dividing. Okay, so that's my expression. My next one is I'm going to draw a model of what I'm dividing, which is my dividend. This is my dividend. And if you weren't sure, you could look back up to here for what your dividend is. Okay, so that is my dividend. Okay, so now I'm going to draw that. Well, unlike in our last lesson, this isn't a fraction, it's a whole number. So what it's actually saying is I have 12 things. So I'm going to draw 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Okay, so I have 12. Okay, let's look at my next step. My next step says, now I'm going to, let me move it up, divide the model by my divisor. Okay, so here's my model, 12, and my divisor is 1/4. So I'm gonna take each pound of candy and cut it into fourths. I'm gonna take each pound of candy and cut it into fourths. I know, for these big numbers, this one takes a long time. Okay, so what I did is I took my 12 pounds of candy and I cut them or divided them into fourths. Okay, let's look at my next step. Next, it says I'm gonna find the solution by counting. Okay, so this is going to go in box 1. This can go in box 2, box 3, box 4, box 5, box 6, box 7, box 8. And I could continue labeling them, but this one I just said I'm gonna count. So if I kind of realize this is 4, this is 4 more, this is 4, 4, 4, I could either say, ooh, I have 4 times 12, which is gonna give me 48, or I could have continued labeling them. But what this tells me is I'm going to need 48 boxes because each pound of candy is gonna need 4 boxes. Okay, let's try another one, ready? Okay, my next problem says, I have 6 chocolate bars. I want to give 1/3 to each of my classmates. How many classmates can I give chocolate to? Okay, so first I need to come up with my expression. Well, I have 6 chocolates and I'm gonna give 1/3 to each of my classmates. So I have to ask myself, what do I have that I'm dividing? Do I have 1/3 that I'm gonna divide into 6 chocolate bars? Or do I have 6 chocolate bars that I'm gonna divide into thirds? So hopefully you see I have 6 chocolate bars that I'm gonna divide into thirds. Okay, and then it says I'm gonna draw a model of what I'm dividing. This is my dividend. So this is my dividend, that's what I'm dividing. This one I'm gonna try the number line. Now I'm gonna show you this number line is gonna be very different than the number line in the last lesson. So I have 6, so I have to show 6 on my number line. So I have to actually have 6 to represent my 6 chocolate bars. So this is 1 chocolate bar, another. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 chocolate bars. So I drew what I'm dividing. Now, what's my next step say? I'm gonna divide the model by the divisor. So this is where it gets a little tricky. I'm gonna divide each of the chocolate bars into thirds. So I'm gonna divide each one into thirds. So this chocolate bar got cut into 3 pieces. This chocolate bar cut into 1, 2, 3 pieces. This one got cut into 3 pieces. 3 pieces, 3 pieces, 3 pieces. Okay, let's look at our next step. Now we're gonna find our solution. Okay, so how many classmates? Well, this chocolate bar could go to 1, 2, 3 friends, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. I'm gonna have 18 little pieces of candy that I can pass out to my classmates. So my answer is 18. Now, does that make sense? If you had 6 candy bars and you gave 1 candy bar to every 3 people or everyone got 1/3, could you have 18? Yeah. If you ended up with this as your answer, you'd have to ask yourself, does that make sense? If you had 6 candy bars and you were only giving each piece 1/3 of a candy bar, could you only give them to 1/18 of a person? No, that's absurd. So this is where you have to really ask, does it make sense? And 18 does make sense. I would be able to give candy to 18 people. Okay, let's look at my next problem. My next problem is, I just have the expression. They already gave me the expression. So just like we did in our last lesson, I have to write the problem. So this means I have 4 of something, and I want to divide them into 6. So let's see, what could I have 4 of something that I'm going to cut up? I could have 4 pizzas. So I could say, I have 4 pizzas. Okay, that's my first sentence. What do I have? My next sentence is, what are you doing to it? So I am going to cut each one into 1/6 size pieces. So this is what I'm doing. I'm cutting, which is a word for dividing, into 1/6 size pieces. Okay, so then my question is, how many pieces will I have? Question mark. Okay, so now let's actually solve it. So my first step is done. I have an expression. My second step says that I need to draw what I have. I think I'll try the area model in this one. Here's my 4 pizzas. And remember, even though pizzas are round, we usually stick with rectangles because it's easier. So I drew my dividend, what I have. Now I'm going to divide it by my divisor. So they're going to be cut into 1/6 size pieces. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep. 6. Okay. So I now divided it. My next step says I'm going to count. Well, this pizza has 6 pieces. This pizza has 6 pieces. This pizza has 6 and 6. So I know 6, 12, 18, 24. So I have 24 slices of pizza. Okay, does that make sense? Yeah, if you had 4 pizzas and you cut them into pieces, you would end up with 24. So it does make sense. If I thought this was the answer, does it make sense that you'd have 1/24 of a slice? No. Okay, let's try some. So grab your pencil and let's go. Okay, my first question says, Jack and Jill are cutting paper to make origami stars. They need 1/5 of a piece of paper in order to make each star. If they have 6 sheets of paper, how many stars can they make? So they have 6 sheets of paper, and they need 1/5 of a piece of paper in order to make each star. So am I going to take my 1/5 a piece of paper and divide it into 6 sheets of paper? Or am I going to take my 6 sheets of paper and divide them into 1/5? Okay, so hopefully we see it's going to be 6 divided into 1/5. Okay, so we have our expression. Now I'm going to draw what I have. I have 6 pieces of paper. 3, 4, 5, 6. There's my 6 pieces of paper. Now my next step is I'm going to divide them into fifths because I need 1/5 for each star. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Make sure you're not going too fast where you're miscounting. Okay, so I cut up my paper into sizes that are 1/5 each. Okay, so with this piece of paper, Jack and Jill can make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stars. With this piece of paper, they can make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stars. 5 stars, 5 stars, 5 stars, and 5 stars. So total, they can have 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. Total, they should be able to make 30 stars. And that does make sense because we're taking paper and cutting it into little strips. Okay, let's try another one. Okay, this next one says, I have 4 cups of trail mix. How many baggies of 1/3 cup of mix can I make? Okay, so I have 4 cups of mix, and I'm going to make baggies that are 1/3 cup of mix inside them. So am I taking my 4 cups of trail mix and dividing it into little baggies, or am I taking my baggies and dividing it into 4 cups? Okay, so hopefully we see that I'm taking my 4 cups and dividing it into 1/3. Okay, so step 1 is done. Here's my expression. Step 2, I'm going to draw what I have. I'm going to do a number line on this one. So I have 4. I need to show I have 4 holes. So let's see, I have 4 holes. So 1, 2, 3, 4 whole sections. Okay, so each cup, this is 1 cup, 1 cup, 1 cup, and 1 cup. Each cup now needs to be divided into pieces that are 1/3 big. So now I divided that cup, I'm dividing that cup, and that cup. Okay, my next step says we're gonna count how many little baggies we could make. Well, with this cup I can make 3 baggies. With this cup I can make 3 baggies. With this cup I can make 3 baggies, and with this cup I can make 3. So I had 3, 6, 9, and 12. So I can make 12 little baggies of trail mix. Okay, let's try our next one. Our next one says that we have 2 divided by 1/8. Okay, so what this is saying is there's no written word problem, so I need to write one. So I have 2 of something, and I want to cut them into eighths. So again, I could use something like a story that I've already seen. I could make up my own story, okay, but I need to have 2 of something. So I'm going to say, I have 2 cakes. So my first sentence is, what do I have? Okay, now I'm going to say what I'm going to do. I want to give my students slices that are 1/8 big. So this is what I'm doing to it. I'm going to divide them into slices this big. So now my question is, how many students can get cake? Can get cake? Question. Okay, so that would be work for my word problem. Okay, so now let's actually draw this. And I'm gonna have to kind of squish it here. So I have my 2 cakes. I think I'm gonna use an area model for this. There's a cake and there's a cake. So I drew what I have. I'm gonna divide them. So I need to divide them into slices that are 1/8 big. Is that 8? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yep. Now I need to divide this into slices that are 1/8 big. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so now my answer is, how many students can get it? Well, this cake I can feed 8 students. This cake I can feed 8 students. So I can feed a total of 16 students cake. Okay, does that make sense? Yes. Some people might think this is the answer because we've gotten this habit of thinking we can just multiply it. But would it make sense that if you had 2 cakes and you gave everyone 1/8 of a cake, could you feed 1/16? No. So we have to really stop and ask ourselves, do our answers make sense? Okay, your homework is to do 1, 2. Please know you won't get credit on this one if you don't write a story. So you must have a story problem on here and then rate your understanding. All right, have a nice night, ladies and gentlemen. Good night.